Let's put aside the fantasies of becoming a billionaire for a moment. Today, I want to wrestle with a very specific number. That number is not $1 million. It is not $10 million. That number is $20,000. If you mention this number to people on Wall Street, they might laugh at you, because that might just be the cost of the wine at their dinner. But if you ask me, I will tell you this. $20,000 is the most important, the most difficult, and the most decisive sum of money in your entire life. Why 20,000? Why not 10,000 or 50,000? Because of the intersection of physics and finance. There is a concept known as escape velocity. Imagine a rocket trying to fly into space. In the first few minutes of ignition, it burns more fuel than during the rest of the entire journey combined. Because in that phase, it must fight against the strongest gravitational pull of the Earth and the thickest atmospheric resistance. For most people, the zone between $0 and $20,000 is your gravity well. In this zone, you are not moving forward. You are fighting for your life. When the number in your bank account is below $20,000, your life is actually in a state of extreme fragility. Nassim Taleb talks about anti-fragility, but at this stage you are completely fragile. Let me paint a picture of this life for you. I know this life because before I became the economist, people started listening to. I observed countless people struggling at the bottom. When you only have $1,000 in savings, every small accident is a catastrophe. Your car breaks down and the repair bill is $500. This is not just an expense. This means you might not be able to pay rent this month, or you might have to turn to a payday lender, and once you take that high-interest loan, you are sucked into a vicious cycle. You have a toothache, but because you cannot afford the dentist, you choose to endure it. A year later, a small problem turns into a major surgery, and the cost goes from a few hundred to a few thousand. This is what I call the gravity of poverty. When you have no money, the cost of surviving in this world is actually higher. Banks charge you fees because your balance is too low. Landlords charge penalties because your rent is late. You buy cheap shoes every year because you cannot afford high-quality ones that last. This gravity pins you firmly to the ground. That is why I say, the first $20,000 is the hardest. It is like walking through quicksand. Every time you pull one foot out, the other sinks deeper. I have a quote I stand by. The first $100,000 is brutal. In today's economic environment, for an ordinary working-class person, the true psychological threshold is $20,000. Until you save this $20,000, no so-called investment strategy can actually help you. Because when your principal is nearly zero, a 100% return is still zero. At this stage, the money you earn from investing would not even be enough to buy a hamburger. Many young people walk in this tunnel for years, only to find themselves still running in place. They start to believe that social mobility is dead, that hard work is useless, and then they squander what little they have trying to numb the pain through consumption. But this is exactly where most people fail. What this video is about is not how to make you rich, but how to make you take off. If this is making sense to you so far, follow this channel right now. We talk about real money, real decisions, and real life. We are going to talk about how to generate enough thrust to break out of this gravity well. Because once you cross this $20,000 line, a miracle happens. The resistance drops. The gravity weakens. Suddenly, every bit of effort you put in before starts to return to you exponentially. If your current savings are below this number, please turn off all distractions. Because the next few minutes might be the most important financial lesson of your life. Let's assume you have climbed out of that gravity well. You have $20,000 sitting in your bank account. You have not bought a Ferrari. You have not moved into a mansion. And you look exactly the same as you did yesterday. But deep inside your brain, the chemistry has changed. I call this change the birth of refusal power. Do you know why most people live like slaves in the workplace? It is not because they lack ability. It is because they lack the capital to say no. Imagine two young people sitting in the same office. Let's call them Ryan and Daniel. Their salaries are exactly the same and their skills are equal. The only difference is that Ryan has zero savings, while Daniel has $20,000 in cash. Now the boss walks in and makes an unreasonable demand. Maybe he asks them to work overtime for free, or to sell a product that is clearly defective. Ryan's heart rate will accelerate. His brain will go into survival mode. He will think, if I refuse, the boss might fire me. If I lose my job, how will I pay rent? Fear hijacks his rationality. So he lowers his head and says, "Yes, boss, no problem." In that moment, Ryan is not an independent individual. He is a person forced to sell his dignity because of financial fragility. Now look at Daniel. Daniel has $20,000. This money is enough for him to live for 6 months to a year without any income. When the boss makes the same demand, there are no sirens going off in Daniel's brain. He can look the boss in the eye and say, "I do not think that is a good idea. Can we find another way?" Or if the request truly crosses the line, he tells himself, "Even if I quit right now, I will be fine." Daniel did not actually quit, but because he possesses the ability to walk away, he holds the initiative. This is what I always say. If you cannot walk away, you cannot negotiate. That $20,000 is not money. It is body armor for your personality. Psychologists have confirmed a brutal truth. Poverty lowers your IQ. The book Scarcity shows that worrying about money all day occupies your cognitive bandwidth severely. This constant anxiety is equivalent to a temporary drop in IQ of 13 to 14 points. That is worse than going a whole night without sleep. Why do you buy lottery tickets? Why do you take out payday loans? Why do you spend 2 hours in line to save $2? It is because your brain is filled with the fear of survival, and you have no space left to make long-term plans. When you possess $20,000, your cognitive bandwidth is released. You no longer worry about next week's grocery bill, so your brain switches from survival mode to strategy mode. You begin to see things 3 months or even 3 years down the line. You become smarter at work, more confident in social interactions, and even your temper improves. Not because you read a self-help book, but because you turned off that survival alarm screaming in your head. Many people ask me, "John, what is true wealth?" True wealth is waking up in the morning and being able to say, "I can do whatever I want today." That $20,000 is the admission ticket to this kind of freedom. Although it cannot buy a yacht, it has bought back the most expensive luxury in the world: your rationality and your dignity. Even if your shoes have holes, even if you are driving a 15-year-old car, as long as you have that $20,000 in your account, you are already far wealthier than those driving BMWs but carrying massive car loans. You are no longer walking on a tightrope. You finally have a safety net beneath your feet. Drop a comment below and tell me where you are right now. Are you still in the gravity well? Or have you already crossed that $20,000 line? If I did not talk about math, I would not be an economist. Today's math class will not be boring, because it relates directly to when you can retire. Einstein called compound interest the 8th wonder of the world. But compounding requires critical mass. Just like a nuclear reactor, if you do not have enough uranium, the reaction will not happen. In the world of wealth, $20,000 is that critical mass. Assume you are a genius investor and you can earn a 10% return a year. If you only have $1,000 and you earn 10%, the result is $100. What can $100 do? Maybe you fill your gas tank twice. Then it is gone. It makes no structural change to your life. Your return is swallowed up by the noise of daily expenses. Now with $20,000, the same 10% return gives you $2,000. For many ordinary families, $2,000 is a full month's salary, or 2 months of rent. When your investment income can cover a major expense, magic happens. You're no longer fighting alone. You have gained an invisible partner. This partner does not eat, does not sleep, and has no emotions. But every year, it faithfully earns back a month of freedom for you. Life is like a snowball. The important thing is finding wet snow and a really long hill. That $20,000 is the first tight snowball core you have packed together. Without this core, no matter how much snow you scatter, it will be blown away by the wind. We will use the rule of 72. Divide 72 by your annual rate of return to find how long it takes your assets to double. With a standard index fund at 7 to 10%, every 7 to 10 years, your money automatically doubles. 20,000 becomes 40,000. 40 becomes 80. 80 becomes 160. And so on. You do not need to deposit a single extra penny. Just do not touch it and let it roll. This is why, before $20,000, do not care about the rate of return. Many young people only have a few thousand, yet they are obsessed with cryptocurrencies or stocks that claim to multiply 10 times. Because a 10% return feels meaningless, they want 500%. This is suicidal logic. Precisely because they looked down on 10%, they risked a 100% loss. Their principal went to zero and they had to start over. Before 20,000, your primary task is defense. Accumulation, squirreling away every acorn. The importance of principal far outweighs the rate of return at this stage. Pack this first snowball tight through your labor, your time, and an extremely frugal lifestyle. Once you place it on the hill, the rules of gravity change. Before, gravity stopped you from climbing. Now it helps you roll down. Before this line, you work for money. After this line, money starts working for you. Now we arrive at the most dangerous chapter: how not to fall back in. I call this the Great Filter. In the Fermi paradox, the Great Filter is a threshold that is extremely difficult to cross. In the process of wealth accumulation, $20,000 is that filter. Many ordinary people have had $20,000 in savings at some point, maybe more than once. But most end up broke because they fail to pass through this filter. This is a brutal psychological trap. When you have $20,000 in your hand, the temptation is 10,000 times greater than when you had nothing. This is the reward trap. You worked hard for 3 years, eating instant noodles, buying no new clothes, and finally saved $20,000. Your brain says, "Hey, you worked so hard, you should reward yourself." And right at that moment, your 10-year-old Honda breaks down. You walk past a dealership and see a brand new SUV. The down payment is exactly $20,000. The voice says, "Buy it, you can afford it." Most people fall right here. They sign the check and drive that car home feeling proud. But what I see is someone who personally killed the golden goose that just hatched. That car is not an asset. It is a liability. The second you drive it off the lot, it depreciates by 20%. You have blown your core of compound interest to pieces. You are not back to square one. You have taken on a car loan, higher insurance, and higher gas costs. The gravity well opens up and sucks you back in. And because you tasted the pleasure of a new car, you can no longer endure frugality. You may never get another chance to climb out. There is also an external force trying to pull you down. Sociologists call this the crab bucket effect. Put one crab in a bucket and it can crawl out. Put a group of crabs in a bucket, and whenever one tries to crawl out, the others drag it back down. When you save $20,000, when you refuse meaningless consumption, when you talk about investing instead of gossip, people around you get uncomfortable. They say, "What is the use of saving? Money is meant to be spent." They mock you not because you are wrong, but because your discipline highlights their indulgence. To pass this filter, you have to get used to a certain loneliness. You have to enjoy watching the numbers in your bank account grow rather than watching your closet fill up. I have lived with such misunderstandings my entire career. I drive an ordinary car, live in a modest house, and eat simple meals. People think I do not know how to enjoy life. But I enjoy the sense of security. I enjoy the sound of the compound interest machine humming day and night. When you save $20,000, this is the most critical moment. This money will feel hot in your hand, begging you to spend it. You must resist. Tell yourself, this money is not for rewarding my past. It is for purchasing my future. This is my seed. If you grind your seed into flour and eat it, you will never see a harvest. This is not a test of your earning ability. It is a test of your sense of worthiness. Do you believe you are worthy of long-term freedom or only of short-term pleasure? If you can say no to the car, no to the expensive vacation, no to the crabs pulling you down, then congratulations. You have passed the great filter. You are now officially part of the top 5%. If you are finding value here, follow this channel and leave a comment telling me the hardest thing you ever gave up to save money. Your $20,000 is still in your account. Now we enter the phase of tactical execution, the blueprint from $20,000 to $100,000. If you try to gamble this money on the next big shot, you have basically already lost. What you need to do is position yourself. Divide this seed capital into two parts, the bulletproof vest and the soldiers. Take $5,000 to $10,000 and put it into a high-yield savings account or safe government bonds. This is your bulletproof vest. It is absolutely untouchable. Not for investing, for buying a good night of sleep. When your car breaks down, when you get sick, when you lose your job, this money blocks the bullets of life. Many people lose money in the market not because the market is bad, but because they had no bulletproof vest. When the market dropped 30%, they needed cash and were forced to exit at the lowest point. The remaining $10,000 to $15,000 are your soldiers. My advice is simple. Do not try to find the needle in the haystack. Buy the entire haystack. Find low-cost index funds that track the broad market. Let them occupy the economic territory of the entire country. You do not need to study charts or listen to rumors. Just let them harvest the dividends of the economy's growth. But this alone is too slow. You need a turbocharger. This is the utilization of asymmetric risk. Take $1,000 and invest in yourself. Buy a course, earn a certificate, or learn a new skill. If you fail, you lose $1,000, a limited loss. But if you succeed, the skill might increase your monthly salary by $500. That is $6,000 a year and $60,000 in 10 years. Invest $1,000, return $60,000. No legal financial investment can match this. But in human capital, it is the norm. The $20,000 gave you a buffer where you will not starve even if you fail. Use this time to try a side hustle, do trial and error, and find a second income curve. The poor, lacking a buffer, can only sell cheap labor day after day. You have a buffer. You can spend money to purchase future earning power. Sprint to 100,000. Going from 20 to 100 is much easier than 0 to 20. You are now driven by two engines: the compound interest engine in the market and the active income engine from your self-investment. My danger list. 3 traps on this road that will bring you back to zero. First, never use leverage. Never borrow money to invest. Leverage will liquidate you the moment the market moves. Second, do not touch complex derivatives, options, futures, high-frequency trading. Those are slaughterhouses for professionals. You enter as a lamb. Third, do not buy a house at this stage. A mortgage will lock your cash flow dead. That refusal power you just earned will instantly vanish. You will become a slave to the bank again. Be patient. 100,000 is the next milestone. By then, the compound interest machine will be too loud to ignore. You will not just be rolling a snowball. You will be triggering an avalanche. The final chapter is not about numbers. It is about your quality of life as a human being. When you save $20,000, you might feel disappointed looking in the mirror. No luxury watch, no fancy car, same clothes as last year, but this money is paying you an invisible dividend. It is called a low cortisol life. Cortisol is the stress hormone. When you worry about rent, it is chronically elevated. It causes insomnia, anxiety, a short temper, and it crashes your immune system. The stress of poverty is a chronic disease, but when you possess that $20,000 bulletproof vest, your cortisol levels drop. You sleep better. You are more patient with your children. You argue less with your spouse about money. This invisible health dividend is worth more than the $20,000 itself. Money cannot buy happiness, but money can buy away a lot of unhappiness. That first $20,000 buys away those nightmares that wake you up in the middle of the night. Even if I only had $20,000 right now, I would still be happy. Because it is enough to cover my basic needs, live in a warm house, and do the work I love. Do not let money become your master. Before $20,000, money is your master. You obey it, doing jobs you dislike and enduring bosses you cannot stand. After $20,000, the relationship reverses. You become the master and money becomes the tool. If you save this money just to splurge one day, you will never be truly wealthy. You are just a person with cash who still thinks like someone broke. If you save this money to win control over your own time, then even with $20,000 in your account, you are wealthy. Let's look back at how far we have come. We started from the dark gravity well and talked about how fragile life is below $20,000. We talked about the psychological shift and how money gives you the power to say no. We talked about the compound interest machine and how that snowball begins to roll. We talked about the great filter and why you must resist the temptation to kill your golden goose. And we gave you the blueprint from $20,000 to $100,000. The fulcrum that can change your entire destiny is that $20,000. It sounds small, but in the eyes of those who understand, it carries the weight of a mountain. If you have not reached this number yet, do not lose heart. Ignore those showing off on social media. That is noise. Focus on your own path. I want to issue a challenge. Write in the comment section your current status and what you are prepared to sacrifice to save this $20,000. Maybe it is giving up coffee. Maybe it is no new shoes. Maybe it is starting a side hustle. Write it down. This is a contract with your future self. When you actually save that $20,000, whether it takes 3 years or 5, come back to this video and reply to yourself. I did it. By then you will discover that you have not just changed your savings. You have changed the trajectory of your entire family's destiny. Follow this channel because we are just getting started. The game has started. Go win your first round.